Okay.
Hello, everyone.
We have
I'm just trying to get.
Fisher said hang tight. When the video is hard, we need to move the microphone over here.
I don't need the audio from it. I can use it.
Oh, he muted him. He doesn't want the audio.
Good to go. Hello, everyone.
Turn the volume down some. It was just me talking, and I'm going to talk over.
Welcome to the Chamber's May 1st Friday Luncheon. I am Will Alvis, the 2024 Chairman of the Board. We are thrilled to see all of you today. At this time, I would like to ask Dr. Bob Shield from First United Methodist to come forward and say the invocation.
Thank you, Will. Well, that's some music to pray by. So, would you bow your heads with me, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you and praise you for your goodness to us. Thank you for promising us that you will never leave us or forsake us, that you are always with us, and that you are always working for good in the world. In that faith, we lift up to you today all those near us to the south who've suffered from flooding rains and other natural disasters. These events remind us of how important community is. When things happen that affect us all, how important it is for us to put our differences aside and come together for the common good. So we thank you for this work of the Chamber and for this gathering that reminds us that we're all part of the same community and that we belong to one another, and your Son has commanded us to love one another. We thank you for this food and for the hands that have prepared it, for every good gift that comes from your hand. We give you thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. All right, we are excited to welcome some new investors to the Chamber from this past month. Hold your applause till the end, but please help me welcome Noshbox, and stand up if you're here.
They're here.
Broken Arrow Pest Control, and House of Glam. If you see them around town, please help us welcome them to the Chamber. We all know it takes sponsors to make events like today happen, and we would like to thank those sponsors. Our first Friday Luncheon sponsor, Lynn and Lufkin Coca-Cola. Taylor, Van, thank you, everybody.
That's VFW.
It's what? What is?
VFW.
Which one?
Gold.
Okay.
I didn't know.
Our gold sponsor, VFW. Our media sponsor, the Lufkin Daily News. And our on-time monthly drawing sponsor, ServPro of Lufkin and South Nacogdoches. So let's all give them a round of applause. At this time, I would like to ask Commander Ashley Branton Kettlecamp, sorry, I was going through it, with the VFW to come say a few words as this month's gold sponsor.
Yes, many of you know me as Ashley Bratton. I'm still getting used to it myself. I got married on Sunday, so the married name, thank you. The married name is Ashley Kettlecamp. So yeah, we're all getting used to that. Thank you, Will. So just want to take a moment. Thank y'all for giving me a few minutes of your time and attention this morning or afternoon. I am the commander at VFW Post 1836 right here in Lufkin. For those that don't know, the VFW Post is actually made up of two separate nonprofit organizations. So there's the VFW side for our veterans, and then there's the auxiliary, which is for family members of veterans who are eligible to be in the VFW. The auxiliary president is here with me today, Gerald Spradlin. And a few years ago, he had a vision for stepping up our Buddy Poppy fundraising efforts. And that led to what we now refer to as our Buddy Poppy extravaganza. There is some information on your tables, some flyers there where you can find out a little more information about that. But to tell you a little bit more about what that means, The poppy is known and has been known for a very long time as a symbol of memorial to our fallen veterans. It was based on a poem that was written back after World War I. It was that poem and the notion behind the poem that led to the poppy being recognized as a memorial symbol for our fallen veterans. Many decades later, the VFW actually coined the phrase buddy poppy, and that was based on the idea that there were vocational and rehab programs for our veterans who had come back from war, and they were assembling the poppies that were being distributed throughout the world. And as they were assembling those poppies, they were remembering their buddies who did not make it home. And so they started referring to it as the buddy poppy, and then the VFW coined that phrase, actually copyrighted it. So when you hear buddy poppy, you know that is a symbol of our fallen veterans and an effort led by the VFW, along with lots of other veteran service organizations as well, to raise money to support our veterans in need. So it is Buddy Poppy season. You'll see a lot of Buddy Poppy stuff and Poppy stuff in general around Memorial Day, because that's the holiday that it goes along with, Memorial being specifically for our fallen veterans and memorializing them and their sacrifice. So all of that back to our Buddy Poppy extravaganza. May being a big month, we will start Buddy Poppy distribution here in 2 weekends, and then Memorial Day weekend as well, so y'all watch for that. And then we'll have our really big main effort in terms of fundraising related to Buddy Poppy on May 30th, and that is the Buddy Poppy extravaganza. It is a dinner fundraiser with a lot of the fun and excitement and everything that you can expect from that type of thing. So we're having tables and tickets. We'll have lots of fun ways to fundraise at the event that night, raffles, drawings, auctions, all that good stuff. We are right now seeking corporate sponsorships for tables for that event, and you can see the details of the package options with the flyers on your table. We do have a few more flyers if there aren't enough to go around. Find me or Gerald after lunch. And then the main thing that we want you to know as well, all the money, all the profits that we raise from our Buddy Poppy efforts are what we call restricted funds. So in the nonprofit world, that means there's specific ways that we have to use those funds. So all of those funds are used specifically for veterans in need, families of family members of veterans, and an assortment of programs that we offer at the VFW that all go to support veterans and families of veterans in need. So you just know that all of your funds, all of your efforts, all of your support with that, you know exactly what it's going to and what it's supporting right here in your community. We are the last remaining VFW post in Angelina County. We absorbed the Diboll Post a number of years ago, and then Corrigan closed its doors a couple of years ago. We do support veteran needs in Angelina County, and occasionally when there's a request and a need, we'll extend that to other adjoining counties as well. So yeah, I think the last thing would be, this is the largest veteran benefit, veteran specific fundraiser in our area, and we want you all to be a part of it. So I appreciate your time and your attention this morning, and appreciate your support.
Thanks, Ashley. At this time, we are honored to have with us today J.B. Smith. J.B. began his law enforcement career in Lufkin in January of 1995 and currently serves as Lufkin Police Department's policy manager and executive director for Deep East Texas Crime Stoppers. Since 2013, J.B. has been a lead instructor for Texas Crime Stoppers and has been the past chairman of the Governor's Texas Crime Stoppers Council. This is one of my favorite podcasts. This is one of Tara's. This is one of Tara's favorite podcasts ever, so we are thrilled to have him come today. One of these days, I'm just gonna fly through this with nothing wrong. That day is not today. This is still one of Tara's favorite podcasts ever, so we are thrilled to have him come today and educate us and share stories. So please help me welcome J.B. Smith.
Thanks, Will, for that icebreaker. That was great. I am JB Smith. I do work for Lufkin Police Department, but I'm here today for Crime Stoppers. And I do have several of my board members in here who are used to hearing me talk. I swore I'd keep this under 4 hours, so you'll be okay. I work for Lufkin Police Department, but I'm on loan to Crime Stoppers as their executive director. So I'm going to explain what is Crime Stoppers. Most people, when I bring up Crime Stoppers, can tell me that it has something to do with anonymity and something to do with money. But beyond that, they don't know anything. So I'm going to try and give you a quick rundown of what it is and tell you some stories about Crime Stoppers. I was appointed by Governor Abbott to serve as the chairman of the Texas Crime Stoppers Council, which is the certifying organization for Crime Stoppers groups, and I served my 2 terms on there. And now I teach for the governor's office as the lead instructor for that. I just got back from Navasota yesterday teaching other groups about Crime Stoppers. So, Crime Stoppers is a locally run nonprofit corporation, just like any other nonprofit that's in here, any other nonprofit in Lufkin, and we have a civilian board of directors. We have, I think, 10 voting board members and I don't know how many of y'all are non-voting. We have advisory members, 12 or 15 so advisory members, but it's all volunteers from the local area. And they have been doing this for us since 1982. Crime Stoppers has been around for a long time. So we are certified by the state as being in compliance with best practices. I hope so, since I go teach other people how to do that, but we're certified for that, and that gives us access to some funding that I'll tell you about when we get to that. So history on Crime Stoppers. Crime Stoppers began in 1976 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It had been an idea of a detective back then named Greg McAleese. Greg had this idea that people didn't want to come forward to give information about crimes in their own community out of 2 things, fear and apathy. Apathy, I'm going to leave it up to somebody else. We still see that today. It wasn't my purse stolen because I knew not to leave it in my car. I locked my house so my house wasn't burglarized. I don't go walking in that area of town at that area of night, so I wasn't a victim. It's somebody else's problem. Fear of retaliation. This is 1976 when he's dealing with this problem. People were still afraid to go to court and testify. You think that fear has gone up or down since then? Now that we have cameras in every courtroom. You can't say good morning to somebody on Facebook without getting chastised for not knowing that they didn't quite have a good morning because their bacon was soggy. All right? You just can't. You're going to have the retaliation. So that has increased over time and not gone away. Fear of media exposure. Again, 1976, you had media exposure, but it wasn't what we have today where everybody is a member of the media because we're all publishing on social media. So that fear has gone up from there. And then in general, fear of the courtroom experience. Every TV show out there has something to do with a crime drama these days. Every podcast out there has something to do with a crime drama these days, and nobody wants to be in the middle of it. So he needed to overcome those 2 things, fear and apathy. And he had this idea of, we'll overcome the apathy by putting a little cash out there. We'll put a little money forward, and that'll give me some skin in the game now. So it wasn't my purse that was stolen, but if I can solve it, I might get a little cash in my pocket. And then anonymity. In law enforcement, everything we do is public. It might not be public today, but very soon it's going to be a public record. So every witness, every confidential informant, all of that information goes public. He needed a way to protect those people so they could come forward and truly be anonymous. And so he presents this to law enforcement, and in general, law enforcement back then said it sounds like hug a thug. If you don't want to solve crime in your own community, why should I be putting out that effort? You know who did it, step forward and say who did it. Well, it's not really that simple, but that was the attitude. Until there was a bank robbery. Let me see if I put that in here. No, not a bank robbery, a store robbery. A convenience store was robbed. A young man, college student working the overnight shift to make ends meet, is shot with a shotgun and killed. There are witnesses in the area that could give information, but nobody would talk to law enforcement. At the time, Albuquerque, New Mexico had the highest per capita crime rate in the nation for violent crimes. It's a little better now, but nobody would come forward with it. So Greg goes back to his agency and says, that idea I've been presenting for a while that everybody says is hug a thug, I think it would work here. I've got a bank on board that's going to loan us some money and help us pay a reward. I've got businesses that are donating to this fund. I've got the media willing to help us with a reenactment for this thing. And the phone company is going to give us a phone number that we can use to receive these calls that won't go through the police department. I think we can make it work. And finally they gave in. The chief said go for it. And within 2 weeks they had solved that crime. Somebody said, I recognize the car that you described from there. I know where it's parked and I know the people that drive it. And so they solved that crime. But they also solved a series of gang rapes and other robberies that had happened in the community because people were starved for some way to report this information without getting involved. So from there, it spreads to Texas in 1981. Crime Stoppers of Lufkin's formed in 1982. We are now Deep East Texas Crime Stoppers because we have expanded to other regions. So with Crime Stoppers, anonymity is not our promise, it's the law. It actually says confidentiality, but we will not let you give us your name or identifying information, so we can never reveal it. If we did know it, if Brent calls me and says, this is Brent Watkins and I've got a Crime Stoppers tip, I can't tell anybody that he called. It would be a crime for me to do so. So it's not just a promise, it's the law. And crime for us to divulge the tipster's identity or the contents of any tip. We can only give it to somebody in law enforcement that's going to investigate the case, or in the case of a school-related tip, a school official that's going to investigate that tip. We simply need the information on crimes that people have. We don't need their identities. It complicates things. What I need is that sticky note that says, hey, go look in this location at this time and you're going to find these drugs. That's a lot easier than me having to prove that person was reliable, because now law enforcement just has to prove that the drugs were there. We pay rewards only for anonymous tips. If somebody identifies themselves, we won't pay them. That's kind of tricky because we don't really know who the tipster is, but we tell them that so that they won't go out in public and say who they are. But we only pay for the anonymous information. And we tell them that if we know who you are, we're not going to pay you. For us, we only accept tips in 3 ways. We will only accept them through our phone line, 639-TIPS, 639-8477, through our website, 639tips.com, and through our P3 mobile app, which you can get on our website. If it comes through any of those 3 ways, all of the metadata that's normally stored in your online communications is stripped from that. It goes through a server that strips everything, and I can have two-way dialogue with a tipster without knowing who they are. We never take them in person, with some exception there. We say never because we don't want people to give them to us in person. But if one of our officers is on the street, somebody drives up to him and says, that guy Crime Stoppers is looking for is standing right over there. We don't want the officer to say, only 3 ways. Sorry, can't do anything about it. So they can take the information, but we've trained our officers to turn around and say, now you have to call Crime Stoppers because it's not a tip until you do so. Then they can get paid that reward for having given us that information. If it's used, the tip line, the website, or the app, it's going to scrub all the information. We won't know who that person is, and we won't have a way to track them back. We give them a tip number and a password. That's the only way they can access information about that tip. They can call me to check the status of it. They can call our tip line answering service to check the status of it. But they can't say, this is Joe Blow, I gave this tip earlier. We won't know who it is. All we know is the tip number and the passcode. If they have those 2 things, we can look it up. They'll need that same information if it results in an arrest, property recovery, or case clearance of some type. We will offer them a reward, and they'll need that same information to claim the reward. That way the tipster's identity is never known to us in any form or fashion. So we've got these anonymous tips. How's law enforcement supposed to use it? Because they can't reveal the information outside of law enforcement. It's confidential. It would be a crime for them to do so. So they have to go out and corroborate it. If they get a tip that says Joe Blow is going to leave his house at 8 in the morning, he's going to drive a silver car to this location. He's going to exchange a duffel bag full of cash for a duffel bag full of cocaine, and he's going to take it to another location. They can't go arrest Joe Blow before any of those things happen. They have to corroborate it. Same thing goes with an anonymous tip. We go over, we observe that Joe Blow left his house. He got into the silver car. He was carrying a duffel bag. He went to the location identified. He came out with a different duffel bag. Now they make a traffic stop and they investigate it. They've corroborated the information. No one is ever arrested based solely on a tip. So despite what you see on what's happening in Angelina County, your kids that are perfect angels are not just randomly getting picked up in school because somebody posted a picture of them. Your kids are getting in trouble in school because they posted a picture on social media themselves of them smoking in the bathroom. All right? So it's not the fact that there was an anonymous tip that did this. It's that your child did this. Keep that in mind when you're complaining. So a tip can never be enforceable on its own. But it can be reasonable suspicion, and it can lead to reasonable suspicion, and so the officers can then effect an arrest or clear a case based on their actual work. They still can't put in their case report, a Crime Stoppers tip identified Joe Blow as a drug courier who was going to do these things, and I corroborated it. All they can say is, received an anonymous tip concerning Joe Blow. Here are the actions that I took to do that, because we can't reveal the contents of the tip. And the reason we did that, and I rewrote the law in, 8 years ago, because we couldn't get any legislatures to do it. The legislator wouldn't come forward and change it for us because they didn't understand it. So I rewrote Chapter 414 of the Government Code in order for it to protect these tipsters. And it says you can't release the contents of a tip because I don't know what would identify the tipster to the suspect. It might be the way they spelled their name. It might be the nickname they used. It might be a turn of phrase. It might be the fact that they said, I know this because I saw him at 10 o'clock last night. Any of those little details could reveal who the tipster is, and we want to protect them. So we now have that in statute to protect them for it. The contents of the tip can never become part of an officer's report, included in a case file, delivered to a prosecutor. Sorry, prosecutors, I know you want them, but you can't. The law says specifically how it could end up in court, and it's the defense that could ask for it, not the prosecutors. Can't be revealed to a non-law enforcement officer, except in the case of a campus tip. It could go to the administrator there. And it's not revealed to any non-investigating law enforcement officers. We don't send these tips out just because everybody ought to see them. We send it out to the person that's going to investigate it, and that's how we protect our tipsters. They belong to Crime Stoppers. They don't belong to law enforcement, regardless of who has them at the moment. They belong to Crime Stoppers. That's in statute. They're not subject to the Public Information Act. It's one of two different things in the state of Texas that is protected from the Public Information Act. Everything else the government does is public information under the Act, not this. And then it's not subject to what we call the Michael Morton Act or discovery. So everything that a prosecutor or law enforcement possesses has to be turned over to the defense at the beginning of the case, except a Crime Stoppers tip, because it can't be introduced in court. It also can't be used against your kids in an administrative hearing either. So it's anonymous, and it can't be used as that. So again, we were formed in 1982. It was a collaboration between City Council, Lufkin PD, the Chamber of Commerce, thank you, and concerned citizens. We have a civilian board of directors. We are hosted by Lufkin PD, but Lufkin PD doesn't pay for this except for my time. And East Texas communities and schools are covered by us. A couple of years ago, we were asked to take over Houston County. Their Crime Stoppers group had lost all of its board members and needed somebody to care for it, so we took that over. We also brought in Tyler County. So DP's Texas Crime Stoppers covers Houston County, Angelina County, and Tyler County, and then we assist Trinity County. They have their own program, but we take their tips for them and farm them out for them because we're a bigger program. So that's our coverage area there in blue. We could take in Jasper, but they wanted to go with the Beaumont area, and we were glad for that. It's just one more area we didn't have to cover. Polk County has their own program. St. Augustine does not and needs some help. Nacogdoches has their own program, and Cherokee County has one through their sheriff's department. We don't receive public funds, though. As I said, we're not funded by the police department. We're not funded by tax dollars. We get our reward funds through probation fees. If a person is convicted of a crime in Angelina County, Houston County, or Tyler County, the judge can order them to pay a fee of up to $50 to us, and then we have to use that for reward money. We can't use it for anything else. So criminals pay for other criminals to get arrested so that they can then pay us. And then our operating funds come from grants. Our initial operating fund came from the Chamber of Commerce, donations, and fundraising. You've probably come out and seen our golf tournament that we do here. We have great cigars. We have bourbon. I enjoy the day. And we typically do an annual 50-gun raffle. We didn't do one last year, but we typically do a 50-gun raffle as well to raise funds for Crime Stoppers. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of crime videos, but any questions about Crime Stoppers and how it operates? All right. So these videos, most of them are a little bit older because I want them to be solved cases. Video cameras around town are not always the best, but this one was kind of humorous. This is a car pulling into Petty's Motel in North Timberland. A group of people get out. They're going to tell the motel employee, that they're looking for a suite of rooms. Now, we all know Petty's, right? They have many suites of rooms. But she's going to go over and show them the rooms that she has. While she does that, they're going to burglarize the apartment and the office that are part of the front office there. This text scrolling across the bottom there just tells us that they did recover the Mercedes, and it was allegedly stolen. So the one that's gone into the apartment has just discovered that there's a safe in there. So they call out for their male counterpart. Now, I love this part because they've got I Heart JB on their car, but that didn't stop me. So the employees coming back across the parking lot at this point. I don't know how they got these people in the car. I can't get me, my wife, and my granddaughter in my four-door truck. So all of them climbed in and drive off with it. She didn't know what had been taken. She just knew something was off at that time, and then they checked. So with a Crime Stoppers tip, we recovered the car abandoned out in the county, and we got that, but I don't know if they ever solved the rest of the case. Sometimes we run spots just to be educational. This is not good enough quality that we knew we were going to get the suspects off of it. What we were trying to tell people is, at this time, these F-250, F-350 trucks could be stolen in a matter of seconds. So this is another parking lot here in Lufkin, a hotel parking lot. We don't get good video of our suspects, so we didn't think we were going to get them identified from this. They are at what at the time was Motel 6. They're going over to the F-250 work truck with the company name on the door. And I'll pop up a clock there in just a moment. It takes them 80-something seconds from the time they open the door to crack the ignition and drive off with the truck.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 88 seconds is how long it takes them to drive off with this. It was a flaw in the design of these F-250s.
Wow.
So we put that out more as an educational piece than as a we're going to solve this crime. All right, and then sometimes I get kicked off Facebook. This one, I don't understand why I was kicked off. This is somebody stealing a Yeti cooler out of a truck.
Oh.
And I surmised that we were probably looking for a swimsuit model. And so it's all the people who reported me to Facebook for saying swimsuit model that are really the bad ones. I thought he was very attractive and could be a model. Yeah, he's got a hacksaw, and so he saws it and then dumps it into the van next to him when he gets it.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that one got me a week suspension from Facebook. It was really that one, and the next one that I ran was a woman about his size wearing a leotard that I guessed was probably a yoga instructor.
At least he left the bed.
Yeah, he left them their drinks.
He didn't look like he was short on them, did he?
Yeah, so a Crime Stoppers tip did tell us who he was. We got him. All right, so this case is not all that important, although we did get him identified. TV stations put their logo down in the corner. So we used to try to put our logo elsewhere so that it wouldn't interfere with their logo. Well, they started cropping that out, which was fine. We don't need the branding on there, but they would crop it out and then they would finish by saying, if you have any information on this crime, call Lufkin Police Department. Well, we've established you got to use one of our 3 ways, so we needed our logo to be in there, so I had to figure out how to embed it. So now I put it in places like on their countertop, on the wall in a moment. This guy had gone over to, this is again at Motel 6. It's a little harder for them to crop that out. He had gone to Motel 6, had gone up to one of the cleaning crew who was in a room and propositioned her and exposed himself to her, and then decided he needed a drink before he runs off. So he comes downstairs and gets a drink. One of our past officers who worked for another agency at the time called me with this one and said, "Did that guy do this right there in front of Crime Stoppers logo?" And I said, "Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did." So at this point, he sees that the ladies come down to report it to the front desk, so he decides he better run off. And they even put it in their parking lot for us. But that way it couldn't be cropped out. All right, and then sometimes we have to run cases over and over again. So Darren Kendall was a man that was murdered at Dollar General on Kurth Drive. It's been several years back now. He had gone in at about 10 o'clock at night. He's buying something. He works from home. He's buying some cigarettes or something, and a guy's going to come in and rob it, and he ends up shooting him. And so we get tips, and you'll see these bubbles up there. We get tips sometimes that are not tips. That's just the internet detectives telling us what to do. So they say, well, you can see him right there. How hard could it be to figure out who bought a green Halloween mask? That's the tip. So 4 seconds after he enters the store, he shoots and kills him. Darren's had no chance. Darren's credit card is still in the card reader. So the clerk can't close out the transaction, which means he can't open the drawer to give the money to the robber. The robber decides that, I might get locked in, so he blocks the door. Decides that the clerk's not going fast enough, so he tries to shoot him. And you'll see he pulls the trigger, looks at the gun, pulls the trigger again, gets up on the counter, pulls the trigger. The gun never goes off again after he shot Darren's. So the only things that we had was he was wearing a green Halloween mask and red shoes. And the tips that came in repeatedly were, how hard could it be to find somebody with red shoes? And just go to the store that sells green Halloween masks and ask who bought it. That's the way people think. So we run that one over and over again. If you want to see these cases, we do run them through Twitter or X, Facebook, and Instagram when we have them. I try to do one a week, but the last 4 that I have prepared, they have been solved the day I published them, so I had to pull them right back down. And that's a great thing they were solved, but we didn't get tips. We didn't pay them out. We pay out about $20,000 a year in rewards, and those rewards range from $100 to $1,000, $1,500. So it's a bunch of tips that come in. We do get a lot of tips on school campuses these days, and it's for vaping. And I know that a lot of people out there say, we smoked as kids, it wasn't the end of the world, it's not a big deal, why are they focused so much on it? Well, they're not just vaping nicotine, although that's one thing. It's still a violation of the law, a violation of the school rules. These kids are bringing THC vapes on the school campuses. High concentration THC on middle school campuses. All right, it's not safe, and so we accept those tips, and the schools follow up on them. So I think that's the end. Is that the last slide?
There's just your logo on the next one.
Oh, there we go. Okay, any questions before I turn it back over? I appreciate your attention. Crime Stoppers is out there. We are publicly funded. We're not funded by tax dollars, so when you see our fundraisers, please join in. All right.
You can see why he was definitely one of my favorite podcasts. I wrote that because I was supposed to introduce JB, and Will was like, I got this, I'll do it. But JB, we appreciate you so much. You know, I remember growing up here as a kid, was it Alton that used to do the voiceover? And I remember the first time as an adult meeting him, I'm like, you're the Crime Stoppers voice. Because I used to hear that always on KTRE as a kid. And I remember the gate closing like they had put them in jail. But we're so glad to have y'all here and to be able to have this resource. So thank you for what you do for our community. We do have, yes, absolutely. We do have several announcements and upcoming events that we want to make sure that you know about, and we would love to have you at that. First of all, we want to introduce Dr. Hockenberry, our brand new Lufkin ISD superintendent. If you have not met him, stand up, Dr. Hockenberry. If you've not met him, please take a moment and introduce yourself. I know he's overwhelmed. I said hello, and I'm Tara, and you're on our board. Welcome. He said, well, I'll have to see when it's at. And I said, it's already on your calendar. Don't worry. But there is a meet and greet on Sunday, May 5th at Lufkin Middle School campus from 3 to 5. All are welcome to attend that, and I know that he would be honored to meet you. I actually got to see him this morning before we ever met. He was standing welcoming all the kids to Brandon for First Friday at Brandon. So welcome to Lufkin. We're glad to have you. We also are very happy to welcome a brand new staff member to the chamber, Mackenzie Herring. Mackenzie, where are you? In the back, stand up. Mackenzie is our brand new membership coordinator. For those of you who have known Donna Parrish always, as you know, Donna retired, and we now have Mackenzie. And so if you know of anyone that you think would be a great chamber investor, please let us know, and we'll send Mackenzie out to meet them. But we're thrilled to have her as part of the team. We hope that you will join us on Wednesday, May 15th for Food Truck Wednesday. It's T&T Smokehouse, and they will be in the chamber parking lot from 11 to 1. Friday, May 24th is our Power Networking Breakfast featuring Shane Tatum, who is the president of Integra Insurance Services. He will be speaking about rising up, and we would love to have you join us for that. Friday, May 30th, we hope that you'll join us for a Cheers with the Chamber at Pinecrest Retirement Community. And then coming up in June, it's hard to believe that June is a month away, but Friday, June the 7th is our 7th annual Dueling Pianos event. It is a fundraiser for our Leadership Lufkin alumni. All the money that we make off of that actually goes towards scholarships for Leadership Lufkin and Leadership Tomorrow. Tables are on sale now, so we've got a table in the back. We can sign you up for a table and bill you later. We are in the middle of planning, it's hard to believe, for our 40th annual Texas State Forest Festival coming up on September 19th through 22nd. We are in the middle of planning everything. We've got all the entertainment done, but we still need some sponsors. So if that is something that you would be interested in doing, we would love to have you partner with us to help bring the Forest Festival to make it even bigger and better. Contact our office, and we will always have volunteers for that. So if that's something you're interested in, we'd love to have you as a volunteer. We also want to remind you that the Chamber is now offering ACH debiting for your Chamber invoices. If you're interested in getting your company signed up to pay by ACH, if you will call and let Chris know, we will get you taken care of. This is only for Chamber invoices. It's not for Leadership Lufkin, Leadership Tomorrow Foundation, or Forest Festival, but we do have a new credit card system that can help you with those. So just remind you that that's out there. And we're going to do our on-time drawing, sponsored by Serve Pro of Lufkin, South Nacogdoches County. For those of you that registered beforehand and on time, let's see who gets $100. Rhonda Wood, are you here? Yeah, in the back. Get $100. Thank y'all for being here. Stay dry and enjoy your weekend. We'll see you soon.